You say you don't have time, but that's not true. You have time. You just don't use it on yourself. That's the difference. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Because when something matters, you make time. You don't negotiate it. You don't delay it. You don't push it to later. You do it. So if you're constantly putting yourself last, it's not because your schedule is full. It's because your priorities are misaligned. And that's not accidental. It's a pattern, a repeated decision to place everything else above your own growth. Work, other people, distractions, responsibilities. All of it comes first, and you come after, if at all. And the more you repeat that, the more it becomes normal, expected, automatic. You don't even question it anymore. You just assume that your needs, your discipline, your development can wait, and they keep waiting, day after day, week after week, while everything else gets your time, your energy, your focus. That's the pattern. You give your best to everything around you and leave nothing for yourself. And then you wonder why you feel stuck, why you feel behind, why you feel like you're not moving forward. It's not complicated. You're not investing in yourself. And anything you don't invest in doesn't grow. Until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will call it fate. Carl Jung, you've been calling this life. Responsibilities. Being busy. Handling things. But what's really happening is simple. You've made yourself optional. Everything else is fixed. Non-negotiable. But you? Flexible. Replaceable. Delayed. That's the problem. Because if you treat yourself like an afterthought, your life will reflect that. Your progress will reflect that. Your results will reflect that. You don't rise above your priorities. You live within them. And right now, you're not one of yours. That's why nothing changes. Not because you don't know what to do. Because you don't give yourself the time to do it. You push it back. Again. And again. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it later. I just need to finish this first. And there's always something else. Always something more urgent, more immediate, more external. So you keep reacting instead of acting, and reaction consumes your life. It fills your day with tasks that don't move you forward. It keeps you busy without making you better. That's the trap. You're active, but not progressing. Because progression requires intention. It requires choosing yourself. Consistently. Not occasionally. Not when you feel like it. Daily. And that's what you've been avoiding. Not the work itself. The decision to put yourself first. Because that decision comes with something uncomfortable. Responsibility. Once you prioritize yourself, you can't hide behind being too busy. You can't blame your schedule. You can't delay without knowing you're choosing to. It becomes clear. And clarity removes excuses. So you stay where it's unclear, where everything feels justified, where you can keep telling yourself that you'll get to it later. But later doesn't come. It just moves. Every day. Further away. while your potential stays where it is, untouched, unrealized, waiting. And waiting is the pattern you've been living in. Not because you have to, because you've allowed it. The real reason you come last. You don't put yourself last by accident. You've learned it, conditioned it, reinforced it. Over time, man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them. Epictetus. At some point, you decided, quietly, unconsciously, that other things matter more. Other people's needs, other people's expectations, other responsibilities. All of it got placed above your own growth. And the more you did that, the more it felt right. Because you were rewarded for it. You were seen as responsible, reliable, available. You said yes. You showed up. You handled things. And that created a pattern. You became the person who is always there for everything, except yourself. And that looks good on the outside. People respect it. They depend on it. They benefit from it. But internally, it costs you. Because every time you choose everything else over yourself, you reinforce a belief that your growth can wait, that your discipline is optional, that your future is flexible. And beliefs like that don't stay neutral. They shape your behavior, your decisions, your standards, without you noticing. So you keep repeating it. You keep saying yes to things that don't move you forward. You keep filling your time with external demands. And by the time you get to yourself, there's nothing left. No energy, no focus, no urgency. So you push it again. Tomorrow, later, when things slow down. But they don't slow down. They replace themselves. New tasks, new demands, new distractions. And the pattern continues. While we are postponing, life speeds by. Seneca. This is not about being busy. It's about avoidance. Not obvious avoidance. Refined avoidance. Because if you were forced to sit with yourself, with no distractions, no responsibilities, no external demands, you would have to face something. The gap between who you are and who you could be. And that gap is uncomfortable because it's clear. You know what you're capable of. You've seen it, felt it, but you're not living it. So instead of facing that directly, you stay occupied. You stay useful. You stay needed. Because being needed feels like progress. Even when it's not. It gives you a reason to delay yourself. A reason that feels valid. That feels justified. I can't right now. I have too much to do. I'll get to it later. And because those reasons sound responsible, you don't question them. But underneath all of that, there's something else. A quiet avoidance of yourself. Because prioritizing yourself means removing the noise, the distractions, the constant movement, and focusing on what actually matters. Your growth, your discipline, your execution. And that requires something you've been avoiding. Stillness, clarity, honest self-assessment. No excuses, no distractions. Just you. And what you're not doing. That's uncomfortable. So you stay busy. You stay reactive. You stay external. Because external focus is easier than internal accountability. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't lack time. You lack priority. You don't lack ability. You lack decision. The decision to put yourself first. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Every day. Without negotiation. And that decision changes everything. Because once you make it, your time reorganizes. Your focus sharpens. Your standards rise. Not automatically. Intentionally. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop filling your time with things that don't move you forward. You stop using busy as an excuse. And you start choosing yourself. Directly. Consistently. That's the shift. Not external. Internal. You go from being available to everything, to being committed to something. Yourself. And that commitment is what you've been avoiding, because it removes your ability to hide. It forces you to act, to follow through, to show up, without delay, without excuse. That's why you've been putting yourself last. Not because you don't care. Because prioritizing yourself requires a level of honesty and discipline you haven't been willing to maintain. Until now. Make yourself non-negotiable. You don't become a priority by intention. You become a priority by structure. By removing the ability to push yourself aside. Completely. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Right now, your life is structured around everything else. Other people's needs. External demands. Immediate tasks. All of it has a place. A time. A level of importance. But you? You exist in the gaps. In the leftover time. In the space that remains after everything else is handled. That's why you keep getting pushed back. Because gaps are unstable. They disappear. They get filled. They don't hold. So if you keep placing yourself there, you will always be replaced. That's the first shift. You stop living in the gaps. You create a fixed position for yourself. Non-negotiable. Untouchable. Protected. Not because it's convenient. Because it's required. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. You decide clearly. This is when I train. This is when I work on myself. This is when I execute. No discussion. No adjustment. No, I'll move it later. It stays. Everything else moves around it. That's how priority works. Not flexible. Fixed. And once it's fixed, you protect it. Relentlessly. Because the moment you allow one exception, you reopen the pattern. You give yourself an exit. And your mind will take it. Every time. So you remove exits. You remove options. You remove negotiation. You show up. At the same time. Every day. And you execute. That's how you become non-negotiable. Not by deciding once. By proving it daily. Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Abraham Lincoln. Right now, you've been choosing what's immediate, what's urgent, what's in front of you, over what actually matters. Your long-term growth, your potential, your standards. So we reverse that. You choose what matters most. Even when something else feels urgent. Even when something else demands your attention. Even when it's uncomfortable. Because priority is revealed in conflict. When two things compete for your time, what you choose defines you. And up until now, you've been choosing everything else. That ends here. You choose yourself. First. Not selfishly. Strategically. Because when you build yourself, everything else improves. Your focus. Your discipline. Your output. Your ability to handle everything else. But when you neglect yourself, everything suffers. Quietly, gradually, until you feel it. So you stop treating yourself like an afterthought. You become the foundation. The standard everything else is built on. And foundations don't move. They don't adjust. They don't wait. They hold. That's who you become. Consistent. Reliable. Unmovable. Not because life is perfect. Because your standards are. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't talk about change. You demonstrate it. Through your structure. Through your consistency. Through your refusal to go back to being optional. And once that becomes your pattern, everything shifts. You stop asking, do I have time? You start deciding, I make time. You stop reacting to your day. You control it. You direct it. You use it. Because now, your priorities are clear. And clarity removes hesitation. You know what matters. You act on it. Every day. No exception. That's how you become non-negotiable. Not in words. In behavior. Eliminate self-neglect. You don't wake up and decide to neglect yourself. You drift into it. Quietly. Gradually. Repeatedly. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Seneca. It starts small. You skip one day. You delay one task. You push one commitment. And nothing breaks. Nothing collapses. So it feels harmless. But that's how it builds. Not through failure. Through allowance. You allow one exception. Then another. Then another. Until exceptions become your pattern. And your pattern becomes your identity. Someone who starts, but doesn't finish. Someone who knows, but doesn't act. Someone who intends, but doesn't follow through. That's self-neglect. Not dramatic. Consistent. And consistency is what makes it dangerous. Because anything repeated becomes normal, even if it's holding you back. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Seneca. You've been preparing, thinking, planning, understanding. But when opportunity appears, you're not ready. Not because you lack knowledge, because you lack execution. Because execution requires consistency. And consistency has been broken. Not once. Repeatedly. So we fix that. Not by adding more motivation. By removing the ability to break your pattern. You close the gap between what you say and what you do. Completely. You don't say you'll do something. You do it. Immediately. Without delay. without adjustment, without negotiation. That's the new rule. Because self-neglect survives in delay, in hesitation, in later. Remove those, and it has nowhere to exist. You act at the moment of decision, every time. That's how you eliminate it. Not gradually, directly. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't need to prove anything to anyone else. You prove it to yourself. Through your actions. Through your consistency. Through your refusal to fall back into old patterns. Because the old pattern is still there. It doesn't disappear. It waits. For an opening. For a moment of weakness. For a moment where you say, "It's just this once." That's all it needs. One exception. To restart everything. So you remove just this once. Completely. There is no exception. There is no adjustment. There is no flexibility. There is only execution. Because execution is what protects you. Not intention. Not awareness. Behavior. Repeated. Daily. That's what makes this permanent. You don't rely on feeling disciplined. You rely on acting disciplined. Even when you don't feel like it. Especially then. Because that's when it matters. That's when identity is built. In moments of resistance. In moments of discomfort. In moments where the easier option is available. And you don't take it. You choose the standard. Every time. That's how you eliminate self-neglect. You remove the gap. You remove the delay. You remove the option to fall short. And once that becomes your default, you don't go back. Because going back requires breaking your own rule. And you don't do that anymore. That's the shift. You become someone who follows through. Always. You come first. Always. This is where most people hesitate. Not because they don't understand. Because they don't commit. Fully. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius. Because putting yourself first sounds simple, but it changes everything. It forces you to make decisions you've been avoiding, to say no when it's uncomfortable, to protect your time when others expect access to it, to choose your growth over temporary approval. And that's where people break. They go halfway. They try to balance everything. Keep everyone happy. Maintain old patterns, while attempting to create new ones. It doesn't work, because priority is not shared. It's decided. And if you're not first, you're not a priority at all. That's the truth. There's no middle ground here. You either lead your life, or you react to it. And reacting is what has kept you stuck. You respond to everything. Every demand. Every request. Every distraction. And by the time you get to yourself, there's nothing left. So you stop reacting. You start deciding. You become what you give your attention to. Epictetus. Your attention is your life. Where it goes, your results follow. And right now, your attention has been scattered, pulled in different directions, controlled by external things. So your life reflects that. Inconsistent, unfocused, delayed. But when you take control of your attention, everything sharpens. You decide what gets your time. You decide what gets your energy. You decide what matters. And once you decide, you act accordingly.
No hesitascen, no epalegi, no explanascen.
Because you understand something now. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. Not consistently. Not in a way that builds your life. People will take what you give. Your time. Your energy. Your focus. Not because they're wrong. Because you allow it. So you stop allowing it. You set the standard. Clearly. Through your actions. You protect your time. You protect your focus. You protect your growth. Not occasionally. Always. That's what makes it permanent. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't need to tell people you're prioritizing yourself. They'll see it. In what you say no to. In what you don't engage with. In how you use your time. Consistency communicates more than words ever will. And once that consistency is in place, everything shifts. Your discipline increases. Your clarity improves. Your output rises. Because now, your resources are directed, not scattered, focused, intentional, controlled. That's how you build a life that moves forward. Not by doing more, by doing what matters. First. Every day.
No exception.
That's the rule. You come first. Always. Not selfishly. Strategically. Because when you are strong, everything around you becomes stronger. But when you are neglected, everything weakens. Quietly. Gradually. Until you feel it. So you remove that possibility. Completely. You don't fall back into being optional. You don't allow yourself to drift. You stay structured. You stay consistent. You stay in control. That's who you are now. If you made it this far, then you already know. So don't stop here. Subscribe to the Unbroken Protocol and continue to the next video. You are not broken, you're undirected. Because once you finally put yourself first, you'll realize the problem was never that something was wrong with you. See you in the next video.